Taking a break for a moment, I want to read some Mid-Atlantic Gamefowl history. Something I think is interesting. I was walking my yard and I think about this stuff. And so I try to recall from what I read and vice versa. I'm walking around, I'm observing fowl and I'm breeding them and, taking note of my observations. But in the back of my mind is some old literature like this. So this is from 1948. A publication from 1948. It's an article on Redquills. The Redquills were originated by the well-to-do Estlins of Washington, D.C., close friends of the country's biggest men at the time. Ross Winan, who was a very wealthy man, so considered in his time, had in his employ as gardeners 2 Irishmen and brought over from Ireland a strain of light red yellow legafowl. The Estlins had a strain they called red horses. They crossed them on the Winan fowl, hence the Redquill. They came pumpkin red with green and willow legs and black eyes with a peculiar bronze in their tails, very heavy plumage, a very handsome low-station fowl and great scrappers, very rapid and good healers. Columbus Estlin, the brains of the combination Estlin, Webb, Maddox, and George Smith, the black and tan man. The latter bred the Estlin fowl. They generally used red horses in their big manes. They also had muffs and a strain of pumpkin reds called Shenandoahs. Dick Lee was their feeder, but Columbus was their overseer. Dick never amounted to much without Columbus's judgment. Never seemed to know just when they were ready. The above was from an intimate friend of Columbus Estlin, Colonel Henshaw, who was under, I think this is referring to Commodore Farragut at Mobile Bay. So as far as I understand, Admiral David Farragut, who's famous for the Battle of New Orleans and Mobile Bay during the American Civil War. He's the one that said, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead." And anyway, yeah, interesting history there too. But didn't want to necessarily get into that, but you can see some deep history. So for the Mid-Atlantic region, as far as I understand, they mentioned, like, if you were paying attention, like 5 or 6 strains immediately in that article. And as far as I understand, any kind of ginger or red could easily usually was described as some kind of pumpkin or ginger type fowl, and also muffs since the colony days in Maryland and shortly after, maybe the same time, Pennsylvania, because of port cities, obviously, like Philadelphia and Baltimore and D.C., Washington, D.C. But anyway, yeah, depending on what you read, I mean, yeah, George Washington, he was known for a quality, a nice family of Greys, and they were said to be known to be of Irish origin. And I always assumed they were talking about, when they were talking about his reds, they were talking about ginger-breasted or brown-breasted reds because of his close association with George Smith. I mean, he was in Philadelphia. He had the black and tans, which are connected to the Tartars or are the Tartar strain. And the Estlins are known for their ginger fowl. But as we just read, they could have been, brown reds, basically, of the red horse strain, or what later became to be known as Redquills. So they were ginger, right, of course. And Shenandoahs, you can read about them. But interesting history. Yeah, and then I asked old Mr. Bow about it one time. I asked about the Washington fowl. And he said Mount Vernon Greys and Mount Vernon Reds. But as far as I understood it, yeah, I read elsewhere that the Greys were of Irish origin, and I'm pretty certain they were brown reds or some kind of ginger-breasted reds. But just goes to show, like, that's the foundation, the bedrock for the Mid-Atlantic. And they went elsewhere from there once they come off the boat, usually from Ireland. And whether people want to acknowledge that or not, whatever, but we got a long history, America and Ireland, long, several centuries. So it's just something I think about when I walk my yard, read the literature, and then I'm observing things as I'm breeding them and seeing certain characteristics like the dark eyes, the gypsy face, dark-legged, and it could be ginger. And a pair of blacks could throw Redquill and ginger and blue legs, and it's been interesting. And you can perpetuate them for a bit, but I'm also seeing Redquill and ginger coming out of black fowl, so just something that's been on my mind as I was walking around, and I wanted to read a bit of that. Yeah, so Interesting history there.